Okay, let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? High school, maybe junior, senior year,
Oh, yeah.
when suddenly the future feels incredibly real and deciding where to go next feels, well, monumental, especially the college application part.
Absolutely. It's this universal pressure cooker, isn't it?
Yeah.
A rite of passage, but, you know, everyone experiences it so differently.
Exactly. And that's what we're getting into today. We've got these amazing excerpts from a novel that really pulls back the curtain.
Gives you that inside look.
Yeah, an intimate, sometimes even uncomfortable look at several families going through exactly this. It's set in LA, so it captures that specific kind of high-stakes environment.
And because it's a narrative, a story, it gets at the emotional reality, the strategies, sometimes the sheer absurdity of getting in a way that, just stats can't.
Totally. So our mission here isn't just to rehash the plot. We want to dig into these excerpts, pull out the key insights, understand the different
The
experiences.
kids, the parents.
Right, even the system itself during this crazy intense time. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding what this whole pressure cooker feels like from all these different angles.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's explore.
All right, so let's start where the novel puts a lot of weight, the parents. Because, wow, this story really shows the burden landing on their shoulders.
It really does. And you see this intense anxiety right away. It's driven by love, sure, and ambition for their kids, but also this deep, deep fear of failing them.
Like Nora, Lauren's mom.
Yeah.
She really wants to be this calm, collected, Zen master mom.
Um,
But it kind of falls apart over something tiny, like not recognizing the name Fisk.
Right, which the novel suggests is some kind of insider reference, maybe a top school or network, something that signals if you're really in that world.
Exactly. And talking to a Yale grad, just not knowing that name triggers this massive insecurity. Can she even help Lauren navigate this?
Yeah, it's a small crack that reveals a bigger fear. And Joel, the dad, he's trying to be the practical one.
Focusing on the plan, trying to shield Lauren from stressful data, as he calls it.
But even he seems to grapple with the difference between just having information and actual wisdom about navigating this whole process.
And the setting itself cranks up the pressure, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The source mentions the thin air on the west side of Los Angeles where appraisal was a contact sport. It's this world where ambition isn't just high, it's almost competitive, performative even.
And sometimes coldly calculated, like the Dodsons, Dan and Joy.
Yeah, they've got the confidence, the money, this big focus on legacy. Williams was the goal for their son, Ron, and now they're pushing Katie the same way.
Dan even has this chilling thought about the simple math for parents of only children, twice the payoff for their ambition. It's transactional.
And they clearly think Katie is, a stronger applicant than Ron was. More potential payoff.
But then you have the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Families really struggling financially.
Like Chloe's parents, Dina and Dave. They're dealing with this messy divorce, and it affects everything, including where Chloe can even think about going.
And Dina is desperately trying to find some advantage, some silver lining, right? She finds this financial aid loophole.
The one about the child living with a non-working parent, potentially getting more aid.
Yes. And Dave's reaction when she suggests it,
Yeah.
he literally throws a salad container out the car window.
Wow. Just pure, raw frustration about money and what it means for their kid's future. It's visceral.
Absolutely. And then there are Liz's parents, Uni and Steve. Liz is brilliant, a National Merit finalist.
Top of her class, basically.
But her parents, Steve especially, who drives a cab, they are consumed with worry about how to actually pay for it all.
Yeah, Steve's meticulously hunting for scholarships. He's worried the system favors wealthier families, even for aid.
And he's fixated on this specific number, isn't he? $11,565 for expenses beyond tuition. It's this concrete symbol of this massive financial mountain they have to climb.
So the novel gives us this huge range of parental pressure, right? From the wealthy Dodsons, using legacy like a strategic asset,
In this super competitive environment.
to families like Chloe's or Liz's just improvising, trying to patch things together, find a financial foothold, even when their kids are incredibly accomplished.
So the pressure isn't just one thing. It's shaped by money, by class, by psychology. Sometimes it looks like strategy, other times just desperation.
Yeah, exactly. And the novel shows how those different kinds of anxiety, whether you have wealth or you don't, create totally different home environments, different expectations. And that inevitably shapes the students caught in the middle.
Which is the perfect transition. Let's talk about the students. How are they actually coping inside this pressure cooker?
Well, Lauren, for instance, starts out almost optimistic.
Hmm.
Her future feels vast, giddy even.
That changes pretty fast.
Yeah, as the process grinds on, she feels that future shrinking. The stress becomes physical. You see it in her untucked shirt, her jiggling knee, a ripped skirt hem, little signs.
And the college visits sound pretty disillusioning, feeling like a Republican at Bard.
Or insufficiently Jewish at Brandeis. She's searching for where she fits, but keeps feeling like an outsider. It's tough.
And how she handles the results is fascinating. Outwardly, she seems so calm about it all. Acceptances are just best chances. Berkeley rejection. Takes it in stride.
But the Northwestern waitlist, that one gets under her skin. She drafts this furious, unsent letter. You see the anger simmering there.
Even getting it off the wait list later, she still feels like a not good enough freshman. It lingers.
Yeah, and there's that really poignant moment near the end where she starts to wonder if maybe, just maybe, her parents' pride was unconditional all along, despite all the craziness.
Then you have Katie Dodson. Total opposite projection, right? Super confident, the sure thing, always first.
Her parents are pushing Williams hard, but she digs her heels in about Yale. It seems purely out of obstinance. She knows she could handle Williams.
But the source shows us what's underneath that confidence. She secretly wishes she could just give up the fight, but without hating herself. That's a heavy burden.
And the coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing. This private joke puncturing her skin with tweezers. Minor self-harm as a way to deal.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that what you see on the outside, it isn't always the reality. And her behavior reflects that pressure too, right?
Yeah.
Spreading that awful rumor about her brother.
Getting dangerously drunk at prom, risking getting expelled, her meltdown about not being valedictorian, it all points to this intense internal struggle.
And Chloe, she uses sarcasm like a shield.
Dripping sarcasm, her refuge of the timid but angry. That's how she describes it.
Her parents' divorce was loud and public, forced her into public school. It was painful, so she makes up this funny story about lawyers to cover it up.
And her whole college goal becomes this act of rebellion almost, picking an inappropriate, expensive private school to basically retaliate against her parents for the mess they made.
She's pretty dismissive of the public school counselor, too, calling her a receptionist, which highlights that resource gap again.
Definitely. And her mom makes some comment about a cliche being like a Costco of truth.
Yeah, and that really lands hard for Chloe. The graduation car is this weird, loaded symbol, too. And even though she calls Katie an incredible bitch at prom...
She's the one who helps her. There's this flicker of empathy under all that sarcasm.
Okay, what about Bradley, the Harvard legacy kid?
Fourth generation. Talk about pressure. It's described as this knot of his father's gathered expectations. Huge weight.
And he's secretly exploring things totally off that path, right? Architecture, art.
Yeah, writing an essay about Gary, about cabinet making, things that are his, not the family expectation.
How does he cope when Harvard doesn't happen?
Quietly, internally. There's mention of a mini bottle of Stoli. He even wonders if his dad pushing so hard for Harvard was some kind of like twisted attempt at kindness, trying to give him what he thought was best.
Yeah. He has this reputation, Brad's conquests, but then shows this surprising quiet kindness to Liz after she gets rejected from Harvard, too. Gives her a small gift box.
And Liz Chang, the super achiever, national merit finalist, she's dealing with her own pressures. Her parents' anxieties are palpable, the constant sunscreen reminders from her mom.
And the huge financial worries we already talked about.
Right. She applies everywhere, all the top schools, and her reaction to the results is so measured. She literally stacks up her acceptance letters from other top schools before she lets herself deal with a Harvard rejection.
Her graduation speech is amazing, questioning if where you go is really the most important thing.
Yeah, basically saying 4 years anywhere is going to undo 18 years here. Advocating for believing in yourself, not just the name on the diploma. It's incredibly insightful for someone her age going through all that.
And helping Katie at prom, despite everything. Her reason is so pragmatic and kind of funny.
Didn't want her smelling up my dad's cab. Yeah, it adds this touch of realism, maybe even dark humor to the whole intense situation.
So looking across all these students, what the novel really shows is how this whole process forces them into figuring out who they are, maybe before they're ready.
Definitely. And you see this huge range of coping mechanisms, some really worrying. Sarcasm, humor, self-harm, drinking, secret passions, physical stress, deep introspection.
It reveals all these hidden vulnerabilities and just how differently teenagers handle this kind of intense scrutiny and pressure. It's not one size fits all.
Not at all. And they're trying to manage all this while dealing with the college admission system itself, which is its own beast.
Right, often with help from experts or lack thereof.
Exactly. We meet Ted Marshall, the experienced counselor at the fancy private school. He seems pretty cynical about parts of the industry, like test prep and rankings.
Calls them suckerfish industries, preying on anxiety.
Yeah, and he has his strategies. Limiting his business cards at events, never more than 4 at any given school, to project selectivity. His style is nudge, not shove.
He clearly cares about the kids, wants to fight for them, but admits he's had to get calloused up over the years. Compartmentalize the disappointments.
And he hates those cliche essays that change epiphany ones. You can feel his fatigue with the formula.
Brad's Harvard rejection really throws him, though, makes him doubt his own impact, feel like a negligible presence.
But even after that crisis of confidence, he still steps up for Lauren with Northwestern. He analyzes her application, like a strategist points out the high scores, but also the potential flags in that hyper-competitive pool.
Like the B+ in regular science, not AP, or choir instead of debate club. Things admissions officers might weigh differently.
Exactly. He's thinking about how they'll see it, and his theory about why it's so tough that year is interesting too.
The demographic bulge. Too many of their parents had too many kids at the same time.
Yeah, combined with this escalating obsession with rankings and applying to like 20 schools, it creates a perfect storm.
And you contrast Ted's resources, his deep knowledge, with what Chloe gets at her public school. The counsel she dismisses as receptionist. The inequality is stark.
Absolutely. The system itself often feels kind of arbitrary, doesn't it? Like the Vassar admissions officer with her rigid recipe for success.
And her holy trinity, Harvard, Yale, Vassar,
Yeah.
as if those are the only paths that matter. It shows a certain institutional perspective, maybe even bias.
For sure. And then there's the whole financial aid piece. That information session where Ben flat out says nobody pays sticker price at elite schools.
Framing it like you're negotiating a deal.
And explaining that loophole for single-parent household, the one Dina latches onto. It adds this whole other layer of strategy and stress.
So what this part really highlights is how the system itself, while complex, sometimes secretive, definitely unequal, piles on more stress. It's not just about being a good student, it's about playing the game.
It's just a labyrinth, absolutely. So, okay, after all that, the pressure, the coping, the strategizing, what happens when the decisions finally land, the emails, the letters.
Oh, the novel captures that waiting period so well. Nora obsessively checking the mailbox. Joel and Nora actually debating whether they should steam open an envelope.
The tension. And the student reactions are just as varied as their personalities. Lauren gets her UC results, the acceptances, and the Berkeley rejection pretty calmly, outwardly at least.
Yes, they were her
Fr-
best chances schools, right. Predictable.
Yeah. Liz, though, she physically stacks her acceptances from other top schools first, like building armor before facing the Harvard rejection.
And Brad deals with his Harvard news quietly, internally. That mini bottle of Stoli reappears. His coping mechanism kicks back in.
Parental reactions are all over the map, too. Steve and Uni, Liz's parents, are still depressed despite her amazing acceptances because the money issue looms so large.
While Nora and Joel feel this huge wave of relief, maybe even vindication, when Lauren gets into Northwestern, even off the wait list for the second quarter, they got the validation they were seeking.
And then we move towards graduation. Liz's speech really stands out there. It's such a powerful moment. She questions the whole premise, suggesting maybe where you go isn't the be-all and end-all. 4 years anywhere is going to undo 18 years here. It's about self-worth, not the name brand.
You see the family dynamics right there at graduation, too. Liz's parents lingering, hugging, united despite the money stress.
Compared to Chloe's parents, who seem like they just wanted to be over so they can go their separate ways, the contrast is sharp.
And amidst all this high drama, the novel keeps reminding us of the everyday stuff. Nora stress baking, driving routines, dealing with prom hangovers.
Brad's quiet gift box for Liz. Those small, mundane moments keep it grounded.
Even Katie, at graduation, her first thought is asking her mom if people know Williams is ranked #1, still chasing that external validation.
Yeah, it shows how deeply ingrained that need can become. So what this final section really drives home is that the whole application journey isn't just about the acceptance or rejection letter.
Right, it's this intense period of stress and self-examination that leaves a mark. It shapes how they see themselves, how they handle pressure.
How their family relationships shift. The getting in part is just one moment in a much longer story of figuring out who you are.
So let's wrap up this deep dive. We've really peeled back the layers on the college application experience using these novel excerpts. We saw the parents weighed down by anxiety and ambition.
The students, under immense stress, finding all sorts of ways to cope, some healthy, some not, trying to forge their identities.
We looked at the complex, often unequal system they're navigating, the role of counselors, admissions officers.
And finally, how everyone reacted to the outcomes and what it all seemed to mean as they headed towards graduation.
It's definitely a time packed with huge hopes, crushing anxieties, intricate strategies, and sometimes really unexpected lessons.
Absolutely. About yourself, your family, the world you're trying to enter.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. If, like Liz suggests in her speech, 4 years somewhere specific can't really erase 18 years of life experience, what's the real value of this incredibly intense, often overwhelming application process?
Hmm. Is it just this gatekeeping ritual, a hoop you have to jump through to get to the next stage?
Or does the challenge itself, the pressure, the strategizing, the coping, figuring things out, being judged, does that process actually shape these young people in fundamental ways, ways that matter more than the name on the acceptance letter they end up holding?
Yeah. What does getting in truly mean in the grand scheme of things? Something to think about.